All right, Senator Bussman, let's talk about the current session. You're 2 weeks into legislative session 216. Can you tell us what's went on, particularly in regards to you?
Well, it's been a slow start, and that's usually a normal thing with the process of the legislature. You know, you have to have a certain number of days that a bill has to be in the legislature before we can even debate that bill. And so the first week is very, there's nothing that's really done that first week other than going through the process. This week we started on several bills, and we have several good bills that I think are in the process right now that went through the Senate. One of those bills was Ava's law. That was a law that increased the punishment for domestic violence where there is a death, where a death occurs. Up to this point, it's been manslaughter. And after the Senate passed the bill the other day and we sent it down to the House, now there will be the option for the prosecutor to add murder to that charge of a domestic violence. And domestic violence or domestic abuse where a child is actually dies in that process.
Oh, now that goes to the House next.
That will go to the House, and then the House will have to do the same thing we did. And once they pass it, then it'll go to the governor for his signature. And I think it will go through fairly quickly.
Fantastic.
The other thing that we did was over the last couple months, we've seen a disturbing trend in areas of counties dealing with guns and ammunition. There are several counties and cities across the country that are starting to pass undue regulations on citizens who want to get guns and ammunition. For instance, one sheriff required a person to write an essay and to go to a class, and those classes were extremely expensive, and what he was trying to do was cut down on the number of guns that were out there and the ability to buy ammunition. You know, we have certain laws right now that regulate ammunition and guns, and we think those are enough. So what we passed this time was a bill that would prevent any city or county from adding undue regulations or undue processes to acquire a gun or to acquire ammunition.
Now, what's your prognostication about that making it through the House, to the governor?
I think that'll go pretty quickly as well. You know, that's just one of those common sense things to me that you know, we have our Second Amendment rights. The laws that are in place now are sufficient to protect the people that need to be protected, and to add an additional burden to somebody just to buy a gun or ammunition just because the sheriff or a county commission wants to do that is unnecessary. So we just don't want that in Alabama, and so I think that will be a very well received bill in the House.
Anything else of note?
Well, most of the things going on now are the budgets. The budgets are going to be extremely critical this year. There's a group of us who is pushing very hard to get budgets done quickly so we don't have special sessions like we had last time. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how we work those out. But there's a significant group that wants to get that done. We want to get it done right. We want input from the departments, but we also want those departments to help us, and they've not been forthcoming in that help. And so we're going to have to push that a little bit to make sure that we get fair budgets and make sure that the budgets are balanced like we do in Alabama. And that's one of the differences with Alabama and the federal government. We have got to pass a balanced budget. We can't overspend or we can't borrow our way out of a situation like the federal government can. So that's a good thing for us, but it does challenge us to make sure the budgets are balanced.
Oh, yeah. Now, I assume that's going to be front and center next week. Anything else coming up next week that we should be aware of?
I think the budgets are going to be the key thing. We're doing agencies and boards in sunsets where we're renewing them. Those are just processes that we have to do on an annual basis. We have to renew, you know, the boards, the dental board, the medical board, the optometry board, the board of social workers. There's just hundreds of boards that we have to look at. And what we do, we evaluate those boards. We make sure they're following the law like they're supposed to. We make sure they're financially stable, and then we allow them to operate for another couple of years before they're reviewed again. And I've had the good fortune of being the chairman of that committee for the last 5 years, and it's been a very educational experience for me to understand how boards work and the issues that go on with those boards. But right now, that's the first thing that'll come up next week, and then we'll hopefully move into the budgets fairly quickly after that.
One last thing. Do you expect any surprises this next week, or is it pretty much business as usual?
I think next week will be business as usual.
All right.
After next week, though, all bets are off.
Okay. Well, I'll check back with you next Friday and we'll see how it goes.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, Senator, very much.
You're welcome. Thanks.